Live tomato battle, renowned La Tomatina Fest held in Spain. China calls for multilateral space arms control deal. Beijing, Sputnik. China and Russia submitted a draft treaty on the prevention of the placement of weapons in outer space, the threat or use of force against outer space objects to the CD in 2008 and provided an updated draft in June 2014. The Chinese Foreign Ministry said Tuesday that the multilateral agreement on the control over arms in space be adopted to ensure peace and security. The Chinese government stands for the peaceful use of outer space and opposes weaponization and arms race in outer space. China calls on the CD, Geneva Conference on Disarmament, to conclude a multilateral treaty on space arms control based on the draft proposed by China and Russia as early as possible, so as to effectively uphold peace and security in outer space, the ministry said in its position paper for the 73rd session of the UN General Assembly. In September 2015, the two states submitted a working paper on this issue to the CD in response to the questions raised by some countries, the Chinese Foreign Ministry added. Additionally, earlier in August, the United Nations established a group of government experts (GGE) on the prevention of an arms race in outer space at the initiative of Beijing and Moscow, the paper noted. According to the document, China has consistently sought the complete prohibition and thorough destruction of nuclear weapons, while maintaining its nuclear capabilities at the minimum level required to ensure national security. China supports the efforts of the international community to reduce the operational status of nuclear weapons, opposes research and development of low-yield nuclear weapons and other negative measures that may lower the threshold for the use of nuclear weapons. China is willing to work with all parties to reduce the risk of a nuclear war and maintain global strategic balance and stability, the document pointed out. Beijing opposes terrorism in all forms and calls for a counter-terrorism strategy that will address both the symptoms and root causes of terrorism, the document said. The international community should strengthen counter-terrorism cooperation in accordance with the purposes and principles of the UN Charter, and fully implement the relevant Security Council resolutions and the global counter-terrorism strategy. China opposes double standards on the issue of counter-terrorism, and believes that terrorism should not be linked with any particular country, ethnicity or religion, the paper pointed out. China also upheld efforts of UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres in advancing the reform of the organization in various areas. Beijing hopes that the reform will enable the UN to play a bigger role in the field of peace and security, enhance its capability to implement the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, and improve its internal management and operation efficiency, the paper pointed out. The Foreign Ministry insisted that the reform process should be transparent and should take into consideration the positions of all UN member states. As to the area of cybersecurity, Beijing believes that an international code of conduct should be created, while legal instruments for fighting cybercrimes should be developed under the UN auspices. This framework should be formed in line with the principles of peace, sovereignty, shared governance and shared benefits, the paper noted. The document also underlined the significance of in-depth discussions between countries on the application of international law in specific areas. This year's session of the United Nations General Assembly will be held between September 18 and October 5 in New York. On September 25, the high-level general debate will kick off to last for 9 working days. The CD is an international forum focused on discussions about disarmament issues, which includes 65 member and non-member participants. Read more.